Today on What Went Wrong, being objective about your film tastes can make you a better human being. Hi, I'm Brett Mauser, and I've got some favorite films.
Oh, don't we all?
Don't we all? So, what we're going to do is today's going to be a little interactive with our audience.
Okay.
As I pose this question to you, I want the audience to go and get a piece of paper and a pen, and I want them to answer the question that I'm about to ask you.
Okay.
What are your 5 favorite films?
Oh, this is where you hit pause. And we're back. My favorite film.
Doesn't have to be in any particular order.
Oh, good, because I have no idea. Well, of course, Black Hole, because that's just a film I've always liked. Empire Strikes Back. A lot of animation I have because I like Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, which some of y'all may have to look up. It's a Miyazaki film. Young Frankenstein. I love Mel Brooks. Young Frankenstein or Blazing Saddles. They're both they're both out of control funny. And there's a foreign film I like called Yamato, about the battleship Yamato and how it was destroyed in World War II. And I've always found it very compelling. The story compelling. It's kind of like the reason I like Letters from Iwo Jima as opposed to Flags of Our Fathers, which I liked, but I like the Letters from Iwo Jima not just because the battleship Texas is in it, although I do like that. So those are my, I guess, I've got more, like I like WALL-E, like Disney films I've always liked.
Yeah, I mean it's tough putting really prioritizing
Watching the Woods,
those.
kind of stuff.
It's easier for me because I analyze and I
Right.
think about things and I look at how it really impacted my life because movies impacted my life. So much.
Right.
So mine. Anybody who knows me knows that my favorite film of all times is Casablanca.
Yeah.
Always has, always will be, because it touched my life so personally, impacted my life, my ethics, my morals. I mean, who doesn't want to be Bogart in that film?
I do. Well, I sure wouldn't. Surely don't want to be, Peter Lorre.
Yeah. To make that ultimate sacrifice, and that's reflected in a lot of my movies. Having that opportunity to be with the woman.
Yeah.
But knowing that there is something greater than you and greater than that love.
Yeah.
I even cringed when I said love. Love.
You and your love.
And then I would go with The Sting, one of the greatest con movies of all time.
Oh, with the pool. Yeah. Okay.
Paul Newman and Robert Redford. And then Dances with Wolves. Just a very impactful movie on my life, that particular time. And then Hard Boiled, best action film of
that is a
all
great
time.
action film.
And then, as anyone will say, you always have to have a guilty pleasure, one that is a bad film, or that it's that people are going, oh really, but you love it, you enjoy it, and you can watch it forever. Mine is Hudson Hawk.
That's a great movie.
The Bruce Willis movie with the
it can happen.
Yeah. Because it knew what it was and it went balls out and went. So this is what I'll do with my students in class. I will go to the whiteboard and I'll say, okay, I want you to put you come on up here, put your favorite 5 favorite films.
Right.
I'll put it up there.
Right.
And my God, there's don't even get me started.
Wow, really?
There's some choices up there. And then after 2 or 3 students do that, I ask them again, okay, and I put another chart, separate it, and then I put, okay, what are the 5 best films? And I get these blank looks.
Oh yeah, you just got from me.
Yeah. What do you mean? I just told you. I say, no, you told me your favorite films. Now, what are the best films in your opinion?
Yeah.
And they have a tough time making that connection till I start going over mine.
Right.
And then I say, okay, mine, which is not too rare, but my first pick for my favorite is my first pick in best, and I can back that up. In my favorite category, I've got Casablanca's number 1.
Right.
How it impacted me, how I felt a personal connection to it. Mm-hmm. Then I move over to the best category, and I'll put that as number 1 because I'll start citing how the film was made,
right.
how it was complete chaos, how it was supposed to just be this B movie, how Ronald Reagan was supposed to be the the Bogart character,
Right.
and fate just made these twists and turns. Nobody on the film really cared about it, actor wise. Bogart and Ingrid Bergman were just like, I'm under contract, I got to do this. But there are great moments in there when Humphrey Bogart and one of our friends from the Innocent Saga, DeMarcus, noticed this when I was showing him that film, that when Sam is playing the piano, Humphrey Bogart comes behind him and actually touches him.
Yeah.
And DeMarcus was like, "This was the '40s, and Humphrey Bogart did that."
Yeah.
And then the way they didn't even know how the movie was going to end,
Right.
And they also be like, "Well, who am I getting on the plane with? Bogart? Am I getting on with Henry?" Or with Victor?
Uh-huh.
Well, just play it in the middle.
Which is kind of a good thing to say,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, because they didn't know until they were running over to the set the day of the shoot. So there's all of those things. A film that
The editing, especially, I could talk about the editing.
yeah,
About the editing.
yes, yeah. The whole thing about Round Up the Usual
Round Up
Suspects.
the Usual Suspects.
The original edit of that, there was no
There was
pause.
no pause. There was
Round Up
no
the Usual
drama.
Suspects. Blah 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 blah. But when they did those cutaways,
Major Strauss has been shot, and then it was a blank.
Dum
Dum, 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 dum. Run Up the Usual Suspects.
And then and of
Changed
course,
the whole
how many-
movie.
Yeah, and how many lines, of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she has to walk in mind. Play it again, Sam.
Play it
Even
again.
though that
Or
wasn't actually
play
said.
it, Sam.
Round Up the Usual
You played it for
Suspects.
him. You played it for me. Play it, Sam.
Yeah. How it impacted society.
Obviously, it's my favorite. It's my first best movie too. Just because.
Now, moving down my list, I'm going to be talking. My 3 of those films, I don't really care for that much,
Right.
or wouldn't be anywhere near my favorites list.
Right.
But the first one, number 2, would be Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible film, incredible masterpiece.
Yeah.
Beautifully shot, beautifully acted. Just everything came together.
The music was even good. I was just
Oh yeah, you couldn't make a better film.
Yeah.
And then another one, which for me is like a one-time watcher, but The Shining.
Oh, I love The Shining.
And the reason I put that on there, even though I don't, I enjoyed watching. I mean, the first time I watched it, I was like, I was in college, and I was rooming with a few other people, and I would get home from Blockbuster at 1, 2 in the morning. So I brought Shining home one night, and I put it in. I was like, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to watch this the right way. Turn off all the lights, put it on there, and I'm eating, and this is great. This is kind of cool. This is cool. And then I'm perfectly fine. And then those twins pop up. Lights are coming on.
Yep.
I'm knocking on doors. Hey, JD, want to come
what are
watch
you
this movie with me?
Nope, I was the same way. I was like, everything's cool, and all of a sudden, come play with us. I'm like, and we're out. I'm done.
And the way it is so analyzed from how people have theories that it's Kubrick's confession that he shot the moon landing. You've got to check out a documentary. I think it's called Room 237, and it shows all these things how Kubrick was confessing to being part of the faking of the moon landing. From how the little boy, I can't remember his name right now, but
Danny.
Is playing, and like the tile, the flooring of the title looks like a launch pad, and he's wearing an Apollo shirt. And then 237, which they changed the name from the book, they changed the room number because the moon is 237,000 miles from Earth and all this stuff.
I don't actually think it is.
I don't think so, but it's very fascinating.
Yeah.
And then I just watched a video essay about how it's all about mental illness, and how Wendy, was it Wendy? I think,
Yeah, Wendy.
is actually the crazy one, and how the usage of furniture, because a lot of people will talk about the continuity errors of it, because tables disappear from shot to shot. And if you look at it from the context of when the furniture disappears, she is now hallucinating. It's very interesting because there's a point when she comes in and talks to Jack, and he kind of goes off on her, and right when he's normal, and then he kind of just goes crazy and just starts being real mean to her.
Yeah.
But over his shoulder, a desk has disappeared, and then the conversation ends, and it cuts back to another kind of a longer shot, and the table's there again. And Jack now has this very confused look on his face. And it's proposed that, well, she started hallucinating, that he didn't go off on her. She just started going off on a crazy rant and stormed off. And then if you look at that from the context of how Jack Nicholson is just looking very confused right after that, it fits. That she's the one that's going insane. And it also explains who opened up the freezer to let Jack Nicholson out, because he was never in there. He was already dead at that point. And it's a very interesting. I'll have to see if I can find that video.
That's it. See, okay, that's another one of those things where it's sit back and relax. We're gonna with your mind.
Yeah.
And we know how much I love that stuff.
Yeah. And it's just such an extremely well crafted piece of cinema.
Yeah, that is it. You're right.
Another film that I just can't stand. And I will criticize all the time for critics putting it on their top 5 list.
Right.
And that being Citizen Kane.
Ugh.
Boring. I hate it.
Oh my God, yeah. I can't.
But from a technical standpoint, he changed the way movies were made. He ripped up flooring so that he could get the camera low enough to get the low angles. He started shooting during rehearsal times to save money, and was able to shoot part of the movie when they were just rehearsing. So right on day one, he was under budget and under schedule. So from a technical standpoint, such great,
I can
great
see
aspects
that.
of it.
But yeah, you're right. I don't like it.
Yeah. And then my last one on the best is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And I'll say that put a little extra thing in there is I can also break down my films like the 5 greatest westerns, the 5 greatest action films, the 5 greatest comedies.
Mine Silverado would be in there.
Yeah, exactly. Butch and Sundance I will put in there because it was the best. It was the first buddy film.
Yeah.
And it inspired. It created.
Except for
much.
I don't know about the road.
Let's say buddy cop films, kind of. Even though they weren't cops, but they were cops and outlaws.
Right.
Because you could go to Martin.
The guys that weren't already a team.
Yeah, you could say Martin Lewis, Abbott and Costello. That they were buddy films, but I would actually say, that was really this. I don't think you would have had those '80s cop films like Lethal Weapon. Had Butch and Sundance not been first.
I got you. I'm with you.
So that's where I try to. I don't want to say educate the students, but have them start thinking a different way.
Right.
By understanding, hey, this is my favorite. But I also have to withdraw myself and understand opinion. Mm-hmm. So you're getting from objective to subjective.
Right.
And being objective and saying, okay, I love Hudson Hawk. But I can look and I can understand a lot of the criticisms that people will have. Yeah. Because when you can look at it from a technical standpoint or from an acting standpoint, there's a lot of things that you can criticize about it. So, but when it comes to movies that I can watch all the time,
right?
Everyone
a good fun movie that you want to put in and watch.
Yeah.
And so not all my movies are fun. I mean, Yamato is definitely not a fun movie. It is an intense movie, and it's a sad movie.
Yeah. And it's tough. It's tough trying to put a list like it because then you start you feel like you're disrespecting films like Tora Tora Tora.
Yeah.
And Patton.
Well, see, because Patton was one of the first, I guess, epic movies I ever watched as a kid. And I was, 10, 11 or whatever and of course I saw the whole thing with him, with his speech included, which I memorized when I was at Texas A&M because we used to, before we used to go do bonfire, we had to do a safety class and they'd always play the Patton speech before we did. So everyone learned it. But anyway, Patton, Tora Tora Tora, The Sands of Iwo Jima, because the John Wayne movies but that's one of the good ones. The Fighting Leathernecks, which isn't not really one of the better movies.
Yeah. Well, Rio Bravo, which was so good they remade it 5 times.
Yeah, it was Rio Bravo and El
Dorado, and there was actually another one that is.
And I actually like the El Dorado version because of just that I can't remember who was it played Mississippi, but
Kane. No, not Kane.
It was Michael. Was it Ricky Martin?
No, that was Ricky Martin was Rio Bravo.
Okay.
The Godfather guy. James Caan. was the Mississippi Roll in El
Okay.
Dorado.
Well, he was hilarious.
He was the one that jumped on the
Right.
ground.
Yeah, he was, yeah, and blasted and ended up hitting Cole. And it's
Yeah.
like, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, watch it because it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so those movies like that.
But what will make my best list, because I can look at my favorite list and I can say, okay, the sting, the camaraderie between them, Dances with Wolves, the cinematography,
And the music.
my God, the
The
music
music was amazing.
Hard Boiled, the action, just incredible.
Those long shots.
It's just fabulous. But when it comes to my best list, I can look at, like Patton. I can go, the acting in that was phenomenal.
Everybody.
I don't know if you could find a film with better acting.
Everybody in that film was outstanding. Even the freaking dude on the ground trying to sleep, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the soldier he slaps.
Yeah.
Everything in all the acting in that. But the cinematography didn't stand out to me. Whereas like Lawrence of Arabia. Or Lawrence of Arabia.
That's a different movie.
Arabia. Lawrence of Arabia.
With
beautiful cinematography.
Yeah.
Boring as
Yeah. It's one of those things is like when you're fighting in the desert, for those of us who've done it, when you're fighting in the desert, it's really boring.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot going on for hundreds of miles. And then when stuff does happen, it's extremely exciting for a very short period of time. And then we go back to boring.
Yeah. But my top fives, I can take cinematography, acting, everything in it was just fabulous. Now, how this helps in your life and makes you become a greater person is being able to first and foremost understand the difference between opinion and fact.
Right.
Because even though a best list will be subjective, you're still able to separate your opinion from it and be able to look at it from a technical standpoint and understand the history of it and the facts around it and the visuals of it and how well the music is. There's a lot of subjective aspects to it, but you can look at it critically and step out from and separate your emotions from the reality of something.
Looking at some of the great ones like Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz, which is one of my favorites, both 1939 films and both just in the old tradition of Hollywood and sweeping epic. Gone with the Wind was a little more sweeping epically, but Wizard of Oz is one of the most beloved films in American history. And I have many funny stories about Wizard of Oz when I'm overseas and the things that foreigners think about the Wizard of Oz and how it's beloved by everyone. And so you can look at that. And once again, foreign films like Seven Samurai, which is another favorite from me, best movie of mine. And you could see how they may not be ones that I just like to sit down and just kind of watch. Because I cannot just sit down and watch Gone with the Wind. I typically cannot just sit down and watch To Kill a Mockingbird. It's not like I'm like, let's sit down and watch To Kill a Mockingbird. It's like, ugh, because it is such a, it's a heavy duty subject. Gone with the Wind, heavy duty movie. Damn thing's 4 hours long, 3.5 hours long, whatever it is. It's not. You can take up your whole day just watching Gone with the Wind, but to not have watched it is to rob yourself of seeing a vision of cinematic beauty, a cinematic masterpiece. Now, some of the things about the Civil War may not be popular nowadays. I know a lot of Civil War movies. Gettysburg, I guess, is kind of one of my guilty pleasures. But Gettysburg, the miniseries, which was on TNT, is actually a I guess you could say a screenplay of the book Killer Angels, by Robert Shara. And in it, I remember what's his name. I can't remember that old douchebag's name. One of the Siskel and Ebert or Ebert and Roper, one of those mother.
Leonard Maltin or something.
One of those said something that it was a I can't remember how, but it was it was too pro-Confederate. It was so and so. I was like, it's a book written about both sides.
History.
It's a history book. Well, because the thing was, you had the Union doing Union things, and you had in the movie Gettysburg, you had Jeff Daniels, who was commander of the 20th Maine, Joshua Chamberlain, Colonel Chamberlain, who won the Medal of Honor that day for leading a bayonet charge when his guys were out of ammunition. I mean, the balls on that guy. I don't know how he walked. But anyway, and so he's the one. He's anti-slavery because he comes from that kind of family. He comes from not they weren't abolitionists, but he was from there. And then you had a British colonel who was there visiting the Confederate side, and you've got Low Armistead and Trumbull, all these guys telling their side of why we're doing this. It's for states' rights. It's for this, the other thing. And these guys are like, well, I'm trying to legitimize the Confederacy. It's like, this was what they thought about what they were doing. Whether you like it or not is immaterial. You need to separate your personal opinion. Oh, that's another thing. People watching this, you need to separate your personal opinions from what you're watching and realize that what you may be seeing is a representation of that side. Watching Yamato, it's the Japanese on the battleship Yamato, which was the biggest battleship the world had ever seen, and they're going to go kill Americans and help keep the Japanese stranglehold on the Pacific. Pretty shitty for them to do that, and the atrocities the Japanese committed were on the level to make them inhuman. One of the reasons that my grandfather and all my friends didn't mind killing Japanese and slaughtering them wholesale is because of the shit they'd seen them doing. Okay, and I can't disagree with that. But watching the movie, it's actually told from the side of the Japanese. It's a Japanese film about the Japanese side, and they do gloss over some stuff, and they make the Yamato do a lot better in the battle than she did. She still sunk. Oh, spoiler, sorry. The Japanese lost the war too. I hope it doesn't freak anybody out. But it's still told from that side, and you have to get rid of what you may be thinking about. They do this or that like that, or the halls of history written by the victors, or populated by the victors, as they say. But I watched this movie for the story of our hero, who's a baker, who's been ripped away from his family and put upon this ship and sent off to die. And I'm watching, and I'm getting enthralled and invested in these characters. And when something happens to them and they die, it hits me, even though in the actual story of history, they were my enemy, and I would have been one of the guys in the torpedo planes and the bomb planes trying to destroy the ship, and I absolutely would have been trying to destroy the ship. But still, I can look at those guys as fellow humans, warriors, if you will, and appreciate them telling of their story. Yeah. And that's what you've got to get away from.
Well, and that's why I think boiling it down to just having a discussion about like favorite versus best,
right,
can really help people connect with the other side.
Right.
Because if you can say, oh, here's my favorite, and there's no arguing about that. Hey, this is what I love. Yeah. But let's debate about the best and talk about why. And when you can just start with films, and you can start saying, well, I think Godfather was the best film of all time. Well, I think Casablanca was. And you can talk back and forth, and you'll get to a point where you're like, no, I get that.
Yeah.
But I still think this is this. But you'll find common ground on that.
Yeah.
If you can start with films.
Yeah.
And you can agree, not agree to disagree.
No, because we're not going to agree to disagree.
Right.
You're wrong.
But if you can see the other person's point and understand the best list.
And why they're coming,
and where they're coming from. Right. If you can understand that and go, because when you agree to disagree, you're not doing that.
No.
When you agree to disagree, you're just walking away and nothing's been resolved. But to be able to take film and find common ground and a common understanding and appreciation. Now you can tear down that wall between liberal and conservative, where you can peek over the fence at the other person and start understanding. If you can start with film, and let that seep into the rest of your life, to not push back so hard, and just defend your point of view all the time, and understand the difference between favorite, this is how I feel, versus this is the reality of it.
Right.
And as weird as it sounds, that's sort of what you're doing with favorite versus best. It's the subjective versus objective.
Right. The like I said, I like the movies I like because I like certain things. Well, some of it's because of the I had family that fought in the Pacific, so I like the war movies.
And when somebody says, if you say, "Hey, this is my favorite film," somebody goes, "Oh my God,
another war movie."
Well, when you say, "Hey, this is one of the best films,"
right? What is the best is considered the best. What people think is their favorite runs the gamut. but then you could also see why it runs the gamut and how it relates to the best. It's a very good exercise.
It helps you see the other side.
Yeah.
And it helps you think critically.
Yeah.
Because
there's not nearly enough of that.
You're opening up, because I think once you separate favorite versus best, now you found common ground and you're not fighting for something.
Right.
You're granted your favorites. I get to have my favorites, and there's nothing you get to say about it.
Right.
But now let's talk about the best.
Right.
And we understand, now we're opening up the door to understand that both of us have input on this.
And we're not personally invested, so we're having to defend our little psyche.
Because we can always fall back on our favorites.
Right.